Beetle Boy, Chapter 12, Towering Heights. The butler escorted Darkus into Towering Heights. It was a cathedral of white, punctuated by polished steel, glossy black fixtures and red fabric. It reminded Darkus of a modern art gallery. He was led to a sweeping staircase with a blood-red carpet and ebony banister, and they climbed up 2 flights of stairs to the 2nd floor, passing landings displaying globular sculptures of glass and aluminium. The butler pointed at a door on the landing ahead of him, and Darkus stepped up to it as the butler melted backwards and disappeared. Darkus knocked on the door, his heart in his mouth. There was no response, so he gently pushed, and the door swung open. "Hello?" The room was dark. "I knew you'd come," a voice said from the darkness. "You did?" Darkus strained to see who was speaking. A spotlight flickered, lighting a Persian rug in the centre of the room. "I could tell from the first time our eyes met that you would follow me to the ends of the earth." Novak Cutter stepped into the spotlight. She was wearing a white, floor-length dress, her platinum curls sculpted around her face and an ostrich feather boa draped over her shoulders. She placed the back of her delicate hand on her forehead, letting the feather boa slide to the floor. Relieved, Darkus came forward into the room and picked it up. He opened his mouth to speak. "No," she whispered, covering his mouth with her hand. "Don't say it. There can never be anything between us. I'm promised to another." "What?" "Well, don't pretend you don't love me." Novak clutched her hand to her chest as if her heart was flying away. "Sorry, but..." Darkus dropped the boa and stepped backwards. "You've got the wrong..." "You heartless beast!" She looked straight at him. "Your eyes," she reached out her arms, "they call out to me." "They do?" Darkus shuffled backwards towards the door. "It's not on purpose." "You can't leave." Novak collapsed to her knees and began to weep. Please don't cry." Darkus looked about nervously. I'm sure you're very nice, but I don't know you." "I'm Novak Cutter," she sobbed. "I know your name." "You picked up my card." Darkus nodded and wondered whether now would be a good time to bring up the Beatles. "And you came here?" Novak's eyes sparkled with tears. "Why?" "Well, this may sound strange." "You don't need to explain," she said, shuffling closer. "You've come to set me free from this prison." "Are you a prisoner?" Darkus looked about him in alarm. The room was dark, the curtains were closed. He couldn't see if there were bars on the windows. "Let's run away together to Africa. We'll hunt lions and sleep out under the stars," Novak said in a dreamy voice, moving closer still on her knees. "Why are you talking all crazy?" "Oh, my darling," she threw her arms around Darkus's legs. "You love me, I know you do." Flustered, Darkus tried to step out of her grasp, lost his balance, and fell to the floor. "Let go! What are you doing?" "Well, say you love me," she cried out, clinging to his ankles. "No, I won't." "Stop it," Darkus shouted crossly. "I don't love you." He tried to crawl away. "I was going to ask for your help, but you're obviously bonkers." "There's no need to be rude," Novak said sharply, letting go of him. She got up, brushed herself off. "You could have at least had the decency to pretend that you loved me." "But I don't love you." "Heard you the first time." She turned away. "There's no need to rub it in." Darkus had never been so confused. "When I saw you looking across the street, looking all lovesick..." "I wasn't lovesick. I thought you'd come to see me because I blew that kiss. I even put on my best dress." She smoothed down the satin of her skirt. "I saw you hide in the hedge when those weird men came, and I thought it ever so romantic. That's why I sent Gerard to let you in." "Gerard?" "Our butler," said Novak. "I thought you'd come to tell me that you loved me." She picked up her feather boa. "Well, that's not why I'm here, obviously." "Well, it's your mum, you see. She wants to buy these beetles from my neighbours, and..." "She doesn't see children. She doesn't even like them." Novak walked to the door. "But I'll let Gerard know that it's her that you want to see." "No, wait," Darkus called after her. "It's you I came to see." Novak gave an exasperated sigh and spun round. Well, make your mind up. Darkus got to his feet. I need your help. Really? Novak said sarcastically. Yes. Darkus stepped forward towards her. Please listen. My dad has, he chose his words carefully, disappeared. And I think the reason might be to do with these beetles. I found them living next door to me, and your mother wants to buy them, and... Oh, beetles? Yuck! Novak wrinkled her tiny nose. Nasty, dirty, creepy, crawly things. These beetles are special, and if they're anything to do with my dad's disappearance, I've got to protect them. Darkus could see he was losing her attention. Well, I was hoping you might be able to find out some more about them, or even persuade your mother to leave the beetles alone. Novak let out a peal of laughter. Open your eyes, boy. I have a name. What is it? Darkus. Well then, Darkus. Novak sashayed over to the light switch. Look around you. The walls, previously hidden in shadow, were suddenly brightly illuminated. Darkus pivoted. He was in an oak-panelled library filled with leather-bound books and solid wooden furniture. An imposing portrait hung above the fireplace, a studded leather armchair beside it. On the mantelpiece was a lump of amber. At its heart was a beetle with horns. It looked like a miniature bull. Novak followed his eyes. That's Ornithophagus taurus. A what? Well, it's a species of dung beetle that can pull a load over 1,000 times its own body weight. Novak sounded bored, which is like you pulling 6 London buses. It's the strongest insect in the world. He's magnificent, Darkus replied. It's a shame he's dead. Mater caught it in one of her beetle safaris in Africa. She had it dipped in resin and made into a trophy. Who's Mater? Don't you go to school? Novak sneered. Mater is Latin for mother. Lucretia Cutter doesn't like to be referred to as mother unless it's in the Latin form. You don't call her mum? No, Novak replied, making it clear that was the end of the conversation. Darkus changed the subject. She goes on beetle safaris. He wondered if a beetle safari was like an insect hunt. Once a year, Novak said. She always comes back with new species for her personal collection. Is that the one at the Natural History Museum? Darkus asked. Ha! No, she sponsors that one. She doesn't own it. As the sponsor, she can control who gets to see it and find out what their research is about. This is where she keeps her private collection. Who's that? Darkus pointed at the portrait. That is Sir Charles Darwin by Grayson and Grayson. It's made of the thorax and wing casings of scarab beetles. Novak sounded like she was reading from a textbook. In those drawers, she pointed to a deep cabinet that stretched along the only wall without books, is the Carson Collectora collection from 1903 containing beetles from East Asia. Darkus pulled open one of the thin wooden drawers. Inside, hundreds of brightly coloured beetles were lined up next to one another. Each had a pin stuck right through its right electron, like the specimen trays in the museum. The carpet and curtains, Novak was relishing her TV voiceover persona and speaking in an exaggerated sing-song tone, are made from silkworms and stained red by the blood of the cochineal bug, which isn't a beetle, although many people think that it is. Darkus looked around. The room, with its heavy red curtains and brown leather armchairs, was grander than the room at the museum, but really it was the same, a room filled with dead beetles. Each leather-bound volume in this, the personal library of Lucretia Cutter, Novak was dancing around the room now, is part of a rare scientific collection of books mapping the history of beetle evolution. So many dead beetles, Darkus said quietly. Yeah, it gives me the creeps, Novak said in her normal voice. But I would rather they were dead than alive. How can you say that? Darkus asked, surprised. Beetles are amazing. Novak screwed up her face. No, they're all creepy and crawly and gross. Well, you aren't looking at them properly. I see quite enough of beetles every day, thank you very much. Dead ones? Of course dead ones, stupid, Novak sighed, exasperated. But I don't understand. Why'd you bring me here if you don't like it? Because all the rooms above this floor are out of bound to visitors, and Mater is downstairs with guests. This was the only room I could use without her knowing. She already has all these beetles. Why does she want more? Well, I don't know, Novak shrugged. Mater is a serious collector. She's obsessed. I have a lesson every day about insects. She says it's important for my future that I know all about them. That's how I know their Latin names. Well, what's she going to do with my beetles? Is she going to stick pins in them and put them in drawers? I don't know. Probably, Novak gave a curt nod. Unless it's for work. She's a beetle killer. You really are stupid, Novak giggled. Darkus smiled. Thanks. Mater owns Cutter Couture, you know, with the scarab logo. Darkus nodded. Bertolt told me about it. But what's fashion got to do with beetles? Who's Bertolt? My friend. Oh, Novak sniffed. Cutter Couture is the biggest fashion brand in the world. It makes designer clothes and things, and the secret ingredients of all Mater's products come from insects. But that's boring. The best bit is, she started putting her money into films. She's a movie producer now, and I'm going to be a huge movie star. I've already done my first film, and I've been nominated for an award. Really? Don't I look like a star? Novak turned away, looked over her shoulder, and gave him a dazzling Hollywood smile. She held the well-practiced pose for an alarming length of time. I suppose, Darkus scratched his head and looked around the room. But I don't understand what this has to do with my beetles. Who cares? Beetles are boring. Novak walked over to the window. Darkus is a good name for a lover. I don't suppose you're a stable boy. Stable boys always rescue fair maidens in the stories, and then they turn out to be a prince. No, I go to school like all boys, Darkus snorted.